everyone, wherever you are. Good night to some parts of the Caribbean. I want to begin by thanking you for being here with us this evening as part of this event, this solidarity event with Haiti and Cuba, organized by Caribbean Dialogue and the Haiti Action Committee. We would like to express our thanks to everyone and to extend a special welcome to our guests, Comrade Vijay, Parshad. It is good to share this virtual space with you once again. It's been a while. Also, I'd like to welcome Sister Michel, Haitian activist and radio host, and also Seth, Donnelly. And I would like to say a special welcome.
This meeting is being recorded.
My brother from Trinidad and Tobago, Exec, who is in Canada as we speak. And we have something in common as Trinidadians. Today is supposed to be our anniversary of our 62nd, I think, anniversary of independence. And it is, to say the least, a very painful and disappointing time in the sense that some statements made by our Prime Minister and other leaders on the 62nd anniversary of our independence basically destroyed our sovereignty. Statements were made that suggest that they will let the US use military force in our country to attack Venezuela. This is happening as we observe our 62nd anniversary of our so-called independence, which many of us in the progressive movement deem flag and anthem independence. Because even after independence in 1962, we remained a neo-colonial state. And this latest incident by our Prime Minister and others in her leadership is a potential disaster for our country. It reminds us of a statement I think CLR just made some years ago. And he said, and I'm sort of quoting him, "We are almost witnessing a moment when we are the celebrants at our own funeral." This statement that was made very explicitly by the Prime Minister, couched supposedly in words that if Venezuela attacked Guyana, we will allow US bases to be in our country, is no easy statement. We have always believed that the US is going to attack Venezuela using Trinidad as a point. And what we are seeing is the development right now under construction, one of the largest US embassies any part of the world. So we know this is not just an embassy, we know it's a military base. And even though we are here to speak about Haiti and Cuba, this issue of Venezuela is very important because it is part of the same imperialist narrative and attempt to undermine our sovereignty and independence. It reminds us too of what Simon Bolivar said. And to quote him, it seems that the US is destined by providence to plague our America with misery in the name of democracy. This time, the plan is to bring misery by threatening Venezuela, by falsely accusing Venezuelan and its leadership of drug trafficking. We will protest this. Many of our people are protesting this in very overt and other ways. And we are very disappointed by our leadership, especially those in Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, I was telling an interviewer earlier this week that what we have is not a democracy, but what we have is a kakistocracy. And for those who may not understand what a kakistocracy is governance by the least capable, least qualified, most derelict group of people. And that is what we have in our country and in many parts of the Caribbean at this point in time. About the Haitian situation, for the last 12 months or so, we took a decision that every month at least we'll have an event that expresses solidarity with Haiti. Today we decided to include Cuba because, again, in the Caribbean, the US is perpetrating a myth that the Cuban medical brigades and the Cuban medical missions are sources of human trafficking. And these medical brigades and these doctors are critical to the survival of people in the Caribbean and the sustenance of our health system. And here it is again, another falsehood, another lie, another attempt to create narratives of deception and confusion is being effected against Cuba. So this is why we included Cuba. And the last point before I introduce our moderator this evening is to speak about Haiti and this idea of solidarity in the Caribbean. I know from my experience in the revolutionary movement that one of the tools of imperialism is to create divisions and factionalism. And what we are seeing as we advance our solidarity efforts with Haiti is the same factionalism and what I call the divisions by people who are beginning to invent organizations in order to claim that they are doing something in support of Haiti. We see it as people who are attempting to be vainglorious. And this kind of approach has done harm to the Caribbean. We're also looking at a situation where there are people in the region who try to discredit the legitimate aspirations of the Lavalache movement. And so because we are seen to be associated with an organization that represents or supports the Lavalache movement, we too have been subjected to some criticism. But as I said, I know this from history and from being involved in the movement, that whenever you are effective, all kinds of divisions, all kinds of confusions are created in order to disorient you. We cannot analyze the situation in Haiti unless we take into consideration the fact that the US and other imperialist forces destroyed, undermined, and overthrew the legitimate government of Haiti, led by Jean-Bertrand Aristide and the Lavalache movement. And to me, any analysis of what is happening in Haiti at this point in time must take into consideration that reality. There are others who try to pretend that this did not happen, who have made remarks and extended criticisms of how undemocratic Aristide was when he was in power, and therefore should not be aligned, or anyone should not be aligned in any comfortable way with supporting the efforts of any organization that support the Lavalache movement. The fact that the movement was overthrown, the fact that imperialism still attempts to prevent that organization from returning to power tells me that they are doing something right. And so I wanted to make this statement to clear the air, because there's a lot of confusion, especially in the English-speaking Caribbean, taking place right now around this issue of solidarity and support for Haiti. So I wanted to make that point before I introduce our moderator for this evening, who is Sister Yaya Marin Coleman, activist and journalist from the Caribbean territory of Belize, located in Central America on the mainland. We have two Caribbean territories, Guyana and Belize, that are centered on the mainland of America. And so without further comment, I now introduce you to our moderator for this evening, Sister Yaya Marin Coleman.
Greetings, sisters, brothers, everyone. Thanks for taking time to join us this evening for another Haiti Action Committee and Caribbean Dialogue Card Solidarity webinar this evening in solidarity with Haiti and Cuba. We are live streaming at XTV Belize YouTube and XTV Belize on Facebook. It's the only African independent-owned media house in Belize. And so we have a timed program today. We're very excited to hear from every single person. Know that. So let people know that it's happening live now. So this is the lineup. Brother Ako Motota from Caribbean Dialogue gave a 5 minutes welcome. The opening remarks will be by Brother Pierre Labossiere, Haiti Action Committee, 5 minutes. And I'll tell you when you have 1 minute left. I'm a stickler for time. Introduction of moderator by Brother Ako Motota, 3 minutes. The first presenter would be Sister Maud Jean-Michel. She has 15 minutes. The second presenter is Dr. Isaac Saney. He has 15 minutes. The third presenter is Seth Donnelly. He has 15 minutes. And then we have 4 solidarity messages from within the Caribbean region and from the continent of Africa. So we have Dr. Terry Marisho from Grenada. He has 5 minutes. We have Brother Ringo Harrigan from Curacao. He has 5 minutes. We have Dr. Tovio Asiki. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, brother.
Toivo Ashiki.
Say it again.
Toivo Ashiki.
Toivio Ashike.
Named after a hero of the Namibian Revolution.
Big respect.
From
Namibia / the US, he has 5 minutes. And then the final solidarity message is from our brother Nigel Westmus from Guyana. And then we have the summary by Vijay Parshad, interpreting Haiti and Cuba as imperialist crisis / context of imperialism, 20 minutes. And then we'll have a question and answer segment. So right now, the time, Belize time, is 12 minutes after 6 p.m. We'll go to open remarks by Brother Pierre Labossiere, Haiti Action Committee. He has 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much. And notice, everyone, how it was after she mentioned my name that she talked about she'll cut people off after 5 minutes. I promise to be disciplined. Yes, so very happy and excited that this is taking place today. So thank you for everyone who have joined us and all the panelists. I'm anxious to hear everything that you have to say and to learn from you. I will pay tribute to a beloved hero of Haiti, that's Bishop Romulus, Bishop Willie Romulus. He passed away about 10 days ago and he was 94 years old. Maybe I'm off on the age. I've heard 96, I've heard 94, but he was in his 90s. And this is a man who inspired the people of Haiti, stood very strongly with our people. He's a liberation theologian, very brave, visionary leader in the theology movement, liberation theology movement. And Bishop Romulus was actually aggressed, beaten, when the government, the coup government in 1993, had forced the people to be traveling. The roads were so unsafe that people were traveling in rickety boats from Jérémie to Port-au-Prince, and the boat actually sank. It's estimated that over 1,000 people lost their lives in that sinking. So he did a mass to honor the people, and he was savagely attacked by the coup government. And so to Bishop Romulus and all of the things that he stood for, how he inspired our people, there's a famous phrase that he uttered. He said, in order for things to be better in Haiti, c'est pour ne racher manioc, by terre blanche. That means we have to clean out the soil, like from the manioc that remains there that may burgeon again, all the corrupt elements, and give the land, return the land without any kind of weed or anything, and plant for the new life to grow. So that was the slogan in 1990s, and that really moved the Haitian people. So I wanted to honor Bishop Romulus and for his lifelong work and for having inspired and anchored the movement. We are talking about solidarity between Haiti and Cuba. Cuba is very dear to the Haitian people for many reasons. And there are many connections. The connections with Cuba and Haiti go way back to the times of the Taínos and the Arawaks. Actually, one of the Cuban national heroes, Hathaway, he was of Haitian origin. He was a Taíno or Arawak from the island of La Gonave, right there in the Bay of Port-au-Prince. And when Christopher Columbus invaded, Hathaway was part of the resistance against him, and he went to Cuba and tried to warn the people there, the fellow Taínos and Arawaks, that this is what was happening, and urged them to resist. But people didn't believe him. They couldn't believe such atrocities were taking place. And so he led the resistance in Cuba, but he was captured and burned at the stake by the Spanish colonizers, by the Spanish invaders. And so Hathaway is someone we hold dearly in as a symbol of our connections of the two countries. Haiti and Cuba have worked together to fight against Spanish colonialism. Independent Haiti supported the movement for independence of Cuba. José Martí, the great leader of the Cuban Revolution, one of the great leaders of the Cuban independence movement, came to Haiti, and actually from there in Cape Haitian, he was meeting a number of his colleagues, of his collaborators. And there is a square today, right across the street from the house where he used to stay in Cape Haitian. And there's a square and a statue to honor him and the solidarity between the Cuban people and the people of Haiti. I had the good chance of going to Cuba, the great opportunity to go to Cuba in 2018 and 2019, where I met many of the descendants of the Haitian cane workers, and listening to their stories of how the Cuban Revolution not only brought them dignity, because before they were just atrociously exploited and viciously demeaned, and the racism against the Haitian cane cutters, who were actually building up the economy, being exploited and making those, I cannot say the Cuban people, because the people were not benefiting from all those plantations that were there, but it was that ruling elite that was benefiting from all their labor. And the
One
Cubans.
minute.
Oh, okay. Well, let me speed up real quick there. So I wanted to say that people were very, very excited to, and they talked a lot about the relations of Cuba and Haiti and what the revolution had done for them. Finally, let me close on something very important. And I may take an extra minute, I may beg for an extra minute on this. This is when President Aristide de Lavalas movement came to power in 1991, there was a coup. President Aristide was forced in exile for 3 years. He returned to Haiti. And in 1996, as his term of office was ending, he only served about maybe a year and a half into when he came back into his term. He had served 7 months, then he spent a year and a half into his term. So President Aristide restored diplomatic relations with Cuba. Before that time, under the Duvalier dictatorship, Haiti had the dictatorship severed relations with Cuba, even though there were many Haitians working there. That resulted in the separation of families. Many families couldn't get together, a real tragedy. But this restoring of diplomatic relationship with Cuba provided Haiti, the new Haitian government, with a lot of support from the Cubans in terms of establishing workers, establishing agricultural cooperatives, fishing cooperatives, and a number of collaborations in the healthcare system. There were many young men and young women going to Cuba to study as doctors and nurses, and then to come back and rebuild the Haitian healthcare system. And so this was a relationship that was very, very close. And what happened is by 2004, as this relationship kept growing, and President Aristide had founded a school, UNIFA, started with a medical school and a nursing school. It was part of a plan to really modernize Haiti's healthcare system and deliver healthcare to the poorest of the poor, the majority population. Then the coup took place. First thing that they did, the US forces, the Canadian forces, and the French, they took over that university and they destroyed it, turned it into military barracks. But where did those students go? They went to Cuba. Cuba was there to welcome them and for them to finish their education, so that after they finished, they came back to Haiti to serve the Haitian people. And today, UNIFA, the University of the Aristide Foundation, is there training more young doctors, young nurses, more people, and many of those students are teaching at that university. So I will stop there, otherwise I'll get in a lot of trouble.
Brother Pierre. Big thanks. Apologies for not introducing Brother Pierre properly. He's a Haitian activist and founder of Haiti Action Committee, which is a Bay Area-based network of activists who have supported the Haitian struggle for democracy since 1991. Thank you, Brother Pierre. Our next person, according to the program, is our sister. She's our first presenter, and Sister Maud has 15 minutes. Sister Maud Jean-Michel, this is what I got about you from off. I choose what I may like about you, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk long because I want you to have more time. So Sister Maud is known as Santy B. Is that how you say it?
Santy Bay.
Santy Bay. And she hosted a talk show on Radio Timon. She's a human rights protector and freedom fighter. She used her radio platform to expose what the U.S. is doing in Haiti. Welcome, Sister Maud. We're all ears. The time is 6:22, and you have 15 minutes. I'll tell you when you have 1 minute left.
Thank you so much. But only one thing, I used to have a show on Radio Timon, but I'm not there anymore. Now I had my own show on the internet, but right now it's not on because of financial problem, but I'm trying to work on it. So very soon we might have it again, but I don't know when. Thank you so much, and I'm honored to be amongst so many beautiful souls. And thank you so much for having me. I'm going to try to make a parallel between what the US did to Haiti prior to 1915 and what's going on right now. So in order to understand what's going on in Haiti, we have to make a historical parallel between what the US did prior to the 1915 invasion and occupation of Haiti and what the terrorists are doing to Haiti today, mainly in Port-au-Prince. Before the invasion and the occupation of the 1915, the US had wreaked havoc in Haiti. Political and socio-economic instability, civil war, coup d'etat, political assassination, and exile were rampant. From 1911 to 1915, 7 presidents took office, some of whom didn't even last 6 months in power. Citibank convinced Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat president, to take control of Haiti's political and financial interests. On December 17, 1914, the Marines invaded the National Bank of Haiti and stole Haiti's gold reserve worth $500,000 US. Finally, on July 28, 1915, Woodrow Wilson gave Haiti what we call le coup de grâce, meaning that he invaded and
Excuse me, Sister Maud, you're being asked to speak more into the mic.
Okay.
Thank you, sis.
Yeah. So meaning that Wilson Woodrow sent the Marines to to invade and occupy Haiti, and the occupation lasted 19 years. So right after the invasion, they installed what we call a military regime. And right then and there, they installed what we call forced labor. And it was used for infrastructure projects, resulting to thousands of deaths, especially in the rural part of Haiti. Many landholders lost their land. The military regime forced many Haitians to leave Haiti, and what Pierre was talking about, forced them to leave Haiti so they could go to Cuba and the Dominican Republic to cut sugarcane for penny on the dollar. Thousands of Haitians were slaughtered because they revolted against the occupation of Haiti, including Charles Perrault, who was assassinated in 1919, and his comrade Benoit Batraville in 1920. Two leaders of the CACO movement who fought fiercely against the occupation of Haiti. The US used the lynching of Guillaume Sam, who ordered the execution of many political prisoners, as an excuse to invade and occupy Haiti. Any intelligent person would know exactly that the US was behind all the unrest and mayhem leading to the invasion and occupation of Haiti. Today, we cannot see what's going on in Haiti as an isolated incident. The young Haitian terrorists who are terrorizing Haitian population have been working for the Haitian oligarchs and the American government in order to destabilize Haiti so the United States could repeat what they did in 1915. Meaning that we cannot take what's going on right now in Haiti very lightly. The same thing they did in 1915, they are doing exactly the same thing to finish what they started in 1915 so they could reoccupy Haiti. Maybe their occupation might take a different form. I don't know what form it will take, but I feel this is where we're going. If we don't stop them in their tracks. And before I conclude, I have to emphasize on the danger that young girls and women face right now in Haiti. We're talking about they are being beaten, raped, sometimes killed by the terrorists. And you could see that I don't use the word gang because those young men, they are not gangs. They are terrorists. We got to call them by the name that fit them. So the young girls and the young women, they are in danger. And those terrorists, same thing the FRAP did in 1991 until President Aristide returned in Haiti. They had used rape to destroy women physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And this is exactly what's going on right now. We have some young women who have been killed, sometimes because they refuse to sleep with a terrorist. But sometimes too, some of them get killed by the population because these people are very angry. When they realize that that young woman used to sleep with a gang member. So they think that she is a gang member also. She ended up being killed. So that means women are in danger in Haiti. So while we are losing our wealth, our resources, young men, but young women are in danger. So today, we have to find a way to fight this. If we don't, it's gonna get worse. And then if it get worse, I don't know where Haiti will be next 5 years, next 10 years. And some of them even say that they want to erase Haiti without Haitians and have Haiti in a different fashion for themselves. But I know we won't let it happen. So today, I'm asking you guys who are watching and people from the panel to put ourselves together, to fight the good fight in solidarity. Because if we don't put ourselves together to fight this beautiful fight, our enemies will win. And if they win, forget it. Because we cannot lose Haiti. Haiti is the center of the universe. Haiti is the mother of liberty. So we cannot lose Haiti. And all these things are going on is because they want that name to be done, Haiti. Because I think each time these people heard that name, they get scared. And you know, when you get scared, you do crazy stuff. That's why they're doing what they're doing in Haiti, because they never forgive us for what our ancestors did to the French, the British, even the American from 1915 until they left in 1934, if they did, because I don't think they never did. They installed all these puppet governments, the army that always meddling in coup d'etat and this and that. So they cannot forgive. So if they cannot forgive, we cannot forget. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sister Maud. You had minutes left over, so somebody else is going to capitalize on it. You said everything you needed to say, and it was hard to listen to. And we really appreciate having a sister who can represent the interests of our sisters. I mean, if we can't defend our women and children, we are lost as a people. So thanks so much for that heartfelt appeal for our solidarity. For those who may just be joining us, this is the Haiti Action Committee and CARD, Caribbean Dialogue. This is another one of their solidarity with Haiti and Cuba. This time, we've had a number of them since 2025 started. And so our next guest is Brother Doc Isaac Saney. Brother Doc, make sure I introduce you properly. He's been a guest along with Brother Fear. Listen, we have bragging rights, you know. XTV, 21 years, Creme Radio, 36 years, and Amandala Newspaper, 56 years this year. We have an original member of UBAR on this live, Sister Elma Whitaker Augustine. And so their guest in Sunday Review, Brother Akka and I are host and co-host of the only news review talk show in Belize and most Sunday mornings. So last week, Brother Doc Isaac Saney was our guest. He's a Black Studies in Cuba specialist and coordinator of the Black and African Diaspora Diaspora Studies, BAFD program. His teaching, research, and scholarship encompasses Cuba, Africa, the Caribbean, Black Canadian history, the global Black liberation struggle, and reparations. Brother Doc, 1834, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, it's a great pleasure and honor to be on this webinar, particularly to talk about two countries that I think share such profound historical parallels, Cuba and Haiti, both of them having been, in a sense, crucified by imperialism. Since the triumph of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, the United States has relentlessly pursued an ongoing and ever constantly increasing assault on the Cuban people, employing both military and economic means, including orchestrating invasions, assassination, and terrorist attacks against civilians, as well as engaging in systematic economic sabotage. The sinister and stated articulated goal is to coerce the Cuban people into submission by strangling the economy, creating shortages, hardships, and exacerbating social inequalities. The very inequalities, the very issues the Cuban Revolution has tirelessly worked to eliminate. This strategy seeks to, and it's a tragedy as well, to instigate massive social unrest that would then serve as a pretext for U.S. intervention. I mean, we all know what's happening now with the, shall we say, U.S. warships massing off the shores of Venezuela and in the waters of Trinidad and Tobago. The empire has never accepted the verdict of the Cuban people. It has waged an unceasing economic war and campaign of destabilization aimed at restoring U.S. imperialism's domination and tutelage. Every effort to defy imperialism's dictate and build a new society has faced unrelenting Western destabilization and sabotage. From the Haitian Revolution, which I'll talk about in a bit, to numerous African, Asian, and Latin American national liberation and social emancipation projects. Cuba has faced and is facing the longest economic siege in history from the most powerful military and economic imperial power that has ever existed. Like the Haitian Revolution, the Cuban Revolution is the unforgivable example, the example that must be destroyed by imperialism. Washington's overarching strategy aims at denying and eradicating Cuba's right to self-determination, sovereignty, and independence. The Cuban Revolution of 1959 and the Haitian Revolution of 1791 to 1804 stand as two of the most radical anti-imperialist and anti-colonial moments in modern history. And I should say as an aside, as we get ready in next year to celebrate the 250th year of the American War of Independence, I don't like calling it a revolution. I agree with Gerald Horne in many cases that it was a counter-revolution. We must understand that the Haitian Revolution introduced ideas and concepts of freedom and self-determination that were far more advanced than what came out of the so-called U.S. American Revolution and the French Revolution. Both revolutions, the Cuban and the Haitian revolutions, were rooted in struggles against colonialism, slavery, and imperial domination. And they directly challenged the hegemonic powers of their respective eras. The United States, in the case of Cuba, and France, along with other European powers, as in the case of Haiti. Havana has a profound understanding of these parallels. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez declared that the international community owes a significant debt to Haiti, as it was in the vanguard of independence, anti-slavery, and social revolution in the Americas, noting that Haiti has, quote, suffered the cruel and selfish reprisals of the imperialist powers for more than 2 centuries, end of quote. Translating these sentiments into concrete practice, Cuba continues to send and train hundreds of doctors, send doctors to Haiti and train hundreds of doctors from Haiti as well. And as of April this year, has trained over 2,000 Haitian doctors free of charge. Haitian Cubans number at least 300,000, with Haitian Creole being the second most spoken language in the country. Both revolutionary states were and have been continuously and systematically isolated, economically strangled, diplomatically undermined, and at times, of course, faced imperialist military aggression. Their treatment by global imperial powers underscores a historical pattern in which radical revolutions by the formerly colonized or enslaved peoples are deemed illegitimate and subject to punitive measures aimed at reasserting hegemonic control. What I would like to explore are the historical parallels between these two revolutions, illustrating how Cuba and Haiti were both framed as rebellious states needing to be crucified by the imperial powers. One of the most striking parallels between the treatment of Haiti and Cuba is the use of economic warfare as a means of punishment, a tool of repression. Following its independence in 1804, Haiti faced immediate and crippling economic sanctions. France, the former colonial power, refused to recognize Haitian sovereignty and eventually coerced Haiti into paying a massive indemnity of 150 million francs in 1825 to compensate for the quote-unquote loss of enslaved laborers and property. The debt which Haiti struggled to pay for over a century plunged the nation into economic dependency and underdevelopment. Furthermore, the United States and European nations imposed economic blockades, a cordon sanitaire, limiting Haiti's ability to trade and integrate into the global economy, ensuring its economic stagnation. And we've had mention of the coup against Bertrand Aristide, and it's important to understand that he had also called for France repaying that indemnity, right? Calling France out. And I think there are parallels within Bertrand Aristide calling French imperialism out as what has happened with Patrice Lumumba when he was inaugurating the Congo's independence, where he called out Belgians' malfeasance, horrors that it had rained upon the Congolese people. And it was at that moment that the Belgians at one point decided that this man, Patrice Lumumba, had to go. So I think there are parallels in this when leaders stand up heroically and demand that the colonialism, that the imperial powers be held to account for their horrific crimes. Similarly, after the triumph of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, the United States responded with economic sanctions that remain in effect to this day. The embargo, a blockade, an economic war, formally imposed in 1962, was intended to asphyxiate the Cuban economy, obstructing access to global markets for investment in essential goods. Like Haiti, Cuba was subjected to policies systematically designed to undermine its economic sovereignty and reverse its revolutionary gains. This economic blockade, this economic war, combined with restrictions on financial transactions, have severely impacted Cuba's economic development, causing damages exceeding hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, the damage to the Cuban economy is incredibly destructive, and one can only imagine what Cuba would have been able to achieve beyond its social conquest that it had achieved in the face of this aggression, what it would have achieved if it had been allowed to continue living in peace. And this blockade, this economic war against Cuba, demonstrates a continuity of imperialist strategies in dealing with defiant revolutionary states. In short, Washington wages an unceasing economic war against the heroic island nation. Also, both Haiti and Cuba faced intense diplomatic isolation following their revolutions. In Haiti's case, European powers and the United States refused to acknowledge its independence for years. The U.S. did not officially recognize Haiti until 1862, nearly 6 decades after its independence. The fear was that acknowledging Haiti's sovereignty would embolden enslaved and colonized peoples elsewhere, particularly in the United States and the Caribbean. Haiti's diplomatic marginalization was reinforced through its exclusion from international alliances and organizations, keeping it in a state of perpetual vulnerability. Cuba faced a similar pattern of diplomatic ostracism. Following the nationalization of U.S. assets in Cuba and the alignment of revolutionary government with socialist policies, and I should add here that Cuba's nationalization of those foreign properties was fully in line with Cuba's right as an independent nation and fully in accordance with international law. Well, we know what happened, that Cuba was expelled from the Organization of American States in 1962 and faced efforts by the United States to isolate it from Latin America and the Caribbean nations. So while it's a testament to the Cuban diplomatic staff and their skill and their ability to maneuver and their perseverance that they have relations with all the countries in the Americas now, and of course across the world, it's important that in 1962 every single nation in the Americas was forced to break its relations with Cuba. Only two at that time, Mexico and Canada maintained their relations. And of course, it's very famous that in the early 70s, the newly independent Caribbean nations restored relations with Cuba. And the U.S., in a sense, actively pressurized allies to sever ties from Cuba, limiting its ability to engage in international diplomacy. The Cuban government was framed as a rogue state, just as Haiti had been depicted in the 19th century, reinforcing the notion that revolutionary defiance of imperial power would not be tolerated. The malign goal towards Cuba is to starve the Cuban people into submission. And this was unambiguously articulated by Lester D. Malloy, who was a Vice Secretary of State and an architect of U.S.-Cuba policy. He wrote in a now declassified April 6, 1960 U.S. State Department memorandum, quote, the only, and I'm quoting directly from it, the only foreseeable means of alienating internal support, and he had acknowledged that the Cuban government had majority support. He says the only foreseeable means of alienating internal support is through disenchantment and disaffection based on economic hardship. Every possible means should be undertaken promptly to weaken the economic life of Cuba, denying money and supplies to Cuba, to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of the government. End of quote. Beyond economic and diplomatic attacks, both Haiti and Cuba faced direct military threats and aggression. Haiti, from the moment of its independence, was under constant threat of recolonization. France, Britain, and Spain all entertained plans to retake the island, and people are probably familiar with this, right? And Toussaint Louverture was brilliant in his maneuvering between the imperial powers. But we know that the French were defeated, the Spanish, the British, okay, and then of course the French sent again with Leclerc, okay, Napoleon's brother-in-law, right, and were defeated. And there's a famous story of Macandal, right, from the 1750s, right, in a sense having returned, right, in a plague of malaria against these imperialist colonizers. The United States, despite its own revolutionary origins, viewed Haiti, and I quote, revolutionary in quotes, viewed Haiti as a dangerous precedent and ultimately occupied the country from 1915 to 1934, reinforcing neo-colonial control. And that was mentioned by a previous speaker. Cuba, too, faced persistent military hostility from the United States. The most direct example was the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, where US-backed Cuban exiles attempted to overthrow the revolutionary government, very well known. Additionally, the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, highlighting to the extent to which imperial powers were willing to go to neutralize the Cuban Revolution. Washington has waged an unceasing assault, both military and economic, against the Cuban people, organizing an invasion, as I pointed out, assassinations, over 600 attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, but there are numerous others to assassinate other members of the Cuban leadership, as well as killing young students who were involved in a literacy campaign in 1961. Terrorist attacks against civilians and systematic economic sabotage remains among the list of what the United States has done. Many of these acts were directly launched from and or planned in the United States. These acts of terror against Cuba include the 1976 bombing of a civilian Cuban airliner, the first of its kind in the Western Hemisphere, that claimed the lives of 73 people, and the 1997 Havana hotel bombings, which claimed the life of Fabio De Celmo, a young Montrealer of Italian origin. As a point of fact, over 3,400 Cubans have been killed and over 2,000 injured because of these terrorist acts. And of course, when we put that in the context, right, of the economic war, what we see, as Fidel Castro once called, deaths caused by silent nuclear bombs, we see in a sense the unfolding of what can be only called a silent genocide. And all of these things, the economic war, the military aggression, all of these things are geared to make governance on Cuba as difficult as possible, to make it impossible for the Cuban government to defend the social gains it has given the Cuban people, to continue to fulfill its promises and commitments. But tied to this, as we all know, is the demonization of warfare. Both the Haitian and Cuban revolutions have been subjected to intense ideological attacks destined to delegitimize them. Haiti's leaders, particularly Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, were portrayed in Western narratives as barbaric and incapable of governing a modern state. The Haitian revolution is framed not as a legitimate fight for freedom, but as an anarchic and dangerous uprising. This cause helped justify the isolation, economic subjugation of Haiti. Similarly, the Cuban Revolution has faced a turmoil, which I won't go into, of all sorts of propaganda to delegitimize the nature of the revolution itself. What I would like to conclude by saying is that, and also we've talked about the internationalism as well of the Haiti, the support to Simon Bolivar, the support to Jose Marti. Haiti became a beacon for enslaved Africans and colonized across the region. And Cuba has also been extremely important with its internationalist missions. Not only the doctors it has sent abroad to numerous countries. As we speak today, there's probably about 25,000 to 30,000 Cuban doctors serving in a variety of countries, providing healthcare to the poorest of the poor. But also, we must remember the over 2,000 Cubans who died in the struggle to liberate Southern Africa from racist apartheid, okay, the South African state. And of course, Nelson Mandela himself declared that the Cubans hold a special place in the hearts of the people of Africa. So in concluding, I would like to say the treatment of Haiti and Cuba by imperial powers reveals a consistent pattern of punitive measures against successful revolutionary movements led by the formerly enslaved and colonized peoples. Economic warfare, diplomatic isolation, military aggression, and ideological demonization were and continue to be systematically deployed to punish and neutralize these states. These strategies aim not only to reverse revolutionary gains, but also to send a clear message to other oppressed peoples that defying imperial authority would come at a severe cost. Despite these relentless pressures, both Haiti and Cuba have persisted as symbols of anti-colonial resistance and revolutionary determination. Their histories demonstrate the enduring challenges faced by nations that dare to break free from the grip of imperial domination, while also highlighting the resilience and enduring significance of their peoples and the struggles in the broader fight for global justice, self-determination, and genuine emancipation. And in a time of genocide, in a time where World War I conflagration threatens us, in a time of ecological collapse, these examples maintain their power, their relevance, and their necessity. Thank you.
Big thanks for that and for reminding us of the debt that we owe to formerly enslaved African sisters and brothers and to the people of Cuba and Haiti. We're not free until we're all free, and indeed it has come at a great sacrifice. Our next person that we have on the lineup is Seth Donnelly. And Brother Akko will introduce will share more about Seth for us. And Seth, you'll have 15 minutes after Brother Akko has introduced you.
So Seth Donnelly is an author and activist and a member of the Haiti Action Committee. He has written the book, The Lie of Global Prosperity, How Neoliberals Use Data to Mask Poverty and Exploitation. He has also written a number of articles on counterpunch related to Haiti. He's also the founder of the organization Taxpayers Against Genocide. It's my pleasure to introduce at this session, Seth Donnelly.
Time is 16:51.
Okay, thank you. So good to be here. Appreciate the panel, of course, the organizers and the audience. I'm actually in Detroit right now, where I came out with a delegation from California to the People's Conference on Palestine. And there's 3,000 people that came out for this conference. And where we're at in the hotel, there's very loud motorcycles that periodically go by. So as I'm talking, if there's rumbling noises, that's what's happening. I want to give a shout out to one of the delegates that came with me, Judy Tologan, who is in the audience tonight, and is also a member of Haiti Action Committee. Judy is a long-term indigenous activist here in North America from the Chumash Nation. And Judy actually organized the 1992 tribunal, one of the key organizers in the San Francisco Bay Area, to turn back the Columbus celebrations on the quincentennial. And that is what helped set the stage for Independence Peoples Day here in the United States or North America. Anyway, so it's good to be here with Judy as well. I'm going to focus on the mechanics of how U.S. imperialism is working in Haiti today, primarily. And to do that, I'm going to share screen. There we go. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my voice
Yes,
is
we're seeing it.
good. My voice is a little raspy from all the chants this weekend, but you know, it was in 1971, 54 years ago, August 21st, 1971, that Comrade George Jackson was assassinated in San Quentin prison. In his last book, Blood on My Eye, George Jackson said that there's this passage, I didn't write it down before this presentation, but there's a passage where he said, the U.S. is the problem in the Congo, it's the problem in Guatemala, it's the problem all of Vietnam, of course, at the time, all over the world. And that's part of the internationalism, is recognizing that when we see the genocide unfolding and deepening in Palestine, and we see what's happening with the slow motion genocide in Haiti today, and we see the war on Cuba, which is deepening, it is the U.S. problem. George Jackson is correct. And the only way through it is internationalism and intensifying our solidarity with each other. You know, in the photo on the left, that is, as Sister Maud was saying, the Cauco Rebellion against the U.S. Marines. These were Marines right here that she's one of the captured rebels, the peasant rebels fighting the occupation. And thousands were murdered by the U.S. Marines, many of whom were recruited from the deep south to go into Haiti and impose Jim Crow in Haiti and terrorize the population. But when we look at this, and we look at it today, the fruits of the U.S. counter-revolution, of course, the U.S. was trying to turn back the Haitian Revolution from the very beginning, as other speakers, Brother Isaac was talking about. The U.S. backed up the French extraction of the debt right away. But today we see that the way the U.S. counter-revolution is operating is through this neo-colonial puppet dictatorships. The leader on the left to Trump is Jovenel Moïse, who was later assassinated. Seems to be pretty clear evidence that the U.S. gave the green light to his murder and replaced by other puppets. But what we see happening here is that the current counter-revolution in Haiti, its origins is in the 2004 coup, as Brother Ako was saying, against President Aristide. And what's often not known, and I'm honored to be part of an organization, the Haiti Action Committee, that has, I think, done so much to document, is that when there was democracy in Haiti, when President Aristide was able to govern and the Lavalas movement was in power for a decade, more schools were built in the previous 150 years, healthcare was expanded, housing was expanded, there was adult literacy programs. The military that the U.S. had relied upon as a pillar of terror was dismantled. And of course, at the very end of his before the coup, President Aristide was saying to the world that the French had to pay back the quote unquote debt. At that time estimated to be about 22 billion, and more modern research, even more recent research, puts it at more like over 100 billion. So this is a thread of a good example that the U.S. set about to destroy in the coup in 2004. And even though that coup was, of course, backed by France and Canada, the U.S. was a key player in overthrowing President Aristide. It was the U.S. military that kidnapped him and his wife Mildred and literally flew them out of the country against their will. It was U.S. soldiers first on the ground. As you can see in these photos, on the left, the gentleman is holding up a hand with 5 fingers up, which meant President Aristide should be allowed to finish his 5-year term, which of course he wasn't. He was violently overthrown. Shortly after the coup in February 29th, 2004, the U.S. and France used their muscle in the Security Council of the United Nations to authorize a UN military occupation of Haiti called MINUSTA. This gave it a fig leaf of sort of the UN behind it, but in reality, it was really the imperialist powers led by the US and secondarily France and Canada that were carrying out this occupation. And this is a time that I got involved in the Haiti Action Committee. So I started going to Haiti many times over the last 20 years, documenting what was happening. You can see the UN armored personnel carriers with their guns pointed at the population. I would see that on every trip I would take. Despite this intimidation, this military occupation with an appointed government by the U.S., the government of La Tortue, there were mass demonstrations throughout Haiti. I remember seeing them, and people would come out in the streets holding branches as a symbol of life and resistance, calling for the return of Aristide, affectionately known as Titide. Thousands and thousands, particularly from the impoverished neighborhoods, what they call the popular neighborhoods, like, for example, in Port-au-Prince, Cité Soleil. And so the UN troops carried out systematic massacres in these popular neighborhoods. This one here, and by the way, there will be disturbing images, of course, in this, so just a heads up to the viewers. In Cité Soleil on July 6, 2005, the UN troops went in. I was in Haiti at the time. They sealed off Cité Soleil is an impoverished community of 300,000 people. And the UN troops sealed off the community. They trapped people in like a Warsaw ghetto and came in with massive firepower that WikiLeaks later revealed. I can't remember the number of rounds of ammunition. I could hear it from the orphanage I was staying in Port-au-Prince, the rounds of machine gun fire. Young Haitian journalists that we were working with for human rights documentation came to us, got us into Cité Soleil within 24 hours of this massacre, and we saw the bodies on the ground. It was either this journalist or myself who took this picture. This was one woman and her two children that were murdered in their home, their shack. The troops fired in and they were terrorizing the neighborhood for the crime of resistance, just like the Palestinians are being targeted for the crime of resistance. And what we saw is that they claim it was for going after a gang member, but really they just laid siege to the neighborhood. The direct UN occupation, Haiti, of course, is still under occupation today, but the MINUSTA, the military armored personnel carriers, and the UN military troops occupying the country, has shifted in more recent years to neo-colonial pillars of control. So today in Haiti, it's common in the US media to refer to it as if it's just a country without a government and it's just overrun by gangs. That's actually not at all what's happening. This is the bitter fruit, and it's the designed fruits of the coup and of the U.S. counter-revolution. So what we see are two pillars: police, which are heavily funded by the United States, whereas the United States cut off funding to the police under President Aristide and wouldn't even allow the police to get tear gas, for example, when the U.S. was funding the coup and creating violent disturbances. After the coup, when the police were overtaken by death squad elements and former military elements, U.S. funding for the police skyrocketed. And under Biden, it blew up. And now under Trump, it continues. And then the other pillar are these paramilitaries, which the media calls gangs, but are really death squads. And what we see with these paramilitaries, I'm actually going to skip this in the interest of time, and it's also an extremely gruesome video of what the paramilitaries are carrying out systematic massacres in neighborhoods such as Cité Soleil. And they're going in, and in this case, the La Saline massacre was one of the more famous ones in recent years. La Saline is another very popular, impoverished neighborhood in Port-au-Prince. And the paramilitary, the G9 Death Squad, which has later been rebranded, I'll explain that in a moment. They went into this neighborhood over several days in the middle of November 2018 and just butchered the population. Men, women, children. People were hacked to death with machetes, burned alive. And I got in there with a colleague, and did a study of what had happened, and we released this report. And it was the same pattern that we saw in Cité Soleil in 2005, only now the repression, the terror has been outsourced to paramilitaries, where the U.S., the occupying power, can claim it's not us, it's gangs. The ringleader of the quote-unquote paramilitaries is a former police officer, Jimmy Cherizier, known as Barbecue. It's stunning to me, and I know my time's probably getting running out, but there are some people on the left of the United States that have perpetrated this crazy notion, such as Kim Ives with Haiti Liberté and Dan Cohen in Canada, that this guy's a revolutionary because he uses rhetoric like Che Guevara. The opposite. He's a mercenary. He's got ties to the United States. He's got ties to the ruling PHTK right-wing regime, and he's been linked to massacre upon massacre. He's not called Barbecue for nothing. And these gangs or paramilitaries led by Barbecue, the weapons are flowing in from the United States. And they're linked to a whole host of just horrific abuses that we don't even hear about because there's so much racism, even on the left. So that what's happening in the United States, I should say, so what's happening in Haiti is just not even on people's radar. This is a young woman who a paramilitary came into her community, threw her baby into a fire and murdered the child. And then later she, in desperation, herself passed from mental and physical health breakdown. Recently, there were these nuns that were murdered by paramilitaries. Again, zero reporting of this in any sort of way in either mainstream or progressive news in the United States. Despite this, people are still in the streets demanding an end to what many people say on the streets are gangs or bandits, but it's understood in Haiti that these paramilitaries they're receiving their weapons from the United States and their support from the US and the ruling PHTK regime. While this has been happening, public services have been completely destroyed in Haiti. People are eating mud, like you can see on the right. We hear a lot about the UN food classification system, that it just hit level 5 in Gaza with starvation dramatically exploding. In Haiti, it's a similar deal. 2 million people are now in phase 4 of the food crisis. 5.7 million people are in acute food insecurity and malnutrition. This is the fruit of the coup against the US counter-revolution. When people flee these conditions, we've seen a few years ago under Biden how they were treated and turned back. And of course, Trump has escalated that and by attempting to take away TPS, temporary protected status, for Haitians in the US. Despite this, on the ground in Haiti, resistance continues. So this banner here says, "Happy birthday to President Aristide." President Aristide and his wife were able to return in 2011 against all odds and reopen the medical school. Pierre was talking about how after the coup, the US military, and they took it over.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, they've reopened it. Thank you. And that school is functioning to this day through solidarity, the support of solidarity. Like, this is called UNIFA, and it's supported by the Cubans, who provide some of the staff, and supported by solidarity work in the United States and other places. There they are with the graduate. They're graduating thousands of people. So the movement, the Lavalas movement in Haiti, which Lavalas in Creole means flash flood, that every person's a drop of water together become a flood for change, that's still organizing. And here in the Haiti Action Committee, we stand in solidarity with Lavalas. We try to get the word out, both about the repression, but also about the resistance. So we can also track what the U.S., as George Jackson said, is the source of the problem here in Haiti and how we can deal with that. Also, in closing, I want to let folks know about HaitiEmergencyReliefFund.org. Both Pierre and I are working on that board. This is a group that gets funds directly to the grassroots movement. And that's important when there's so much, we practice solidarity and not charity. So I want to thank folks for the time. I hope that made some sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Seth. There is a saying that says a picture tells 1,000 words. Even though some of it could have done a warning, it was really hard to look at it. But very thorough presentation. Nothing like hearing it from someone who has been on the ground. It's a lot. It's heavy. But our people are bearing it every second of every minute of every hour of every day. And many of them have lost their lives. We owe it to our sisters and brothers in Haiti and Cuba to remain in solidarity, not only in sharing knowledge, especially when there's disinformation or propaganda, to direct people to credible sources like Haiti Action Committee. And to be truthful, funding is always needed. And Haiti Action Committee has an option if people would like to donate financially to our sisters and brothers in Haiti. If anybody from Haiti Action Committee would like to tell people how they can make financial donations, if you have that information, you can do that now. If not, have it ready so that when I call for it again, you have it available. Next, we have our first solidarity message. And one of our solidarity, one of the brothers who was supposed to give us solidarity message is unable to make it with us today. Brother Nigel Westmus from Guyana is unable to make it with us today. And Brother Ringo Harrigan is having some internet issues, so we'll have to improvise for you all to hear his message. Each of these presenters have 5 minutes. So first we have Dr. Terry Mary Shaw from Grenada. He graduated as a medical doctor from the University of Havana, Cuba in 1986. He is a product of the Grenada Revolution of 1983, led by ancestor Maurice Bishop. Brother Dr. Terry Mary Shaw, you have the mic. It's 6:09 in Belize. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much, Brother Eko, for inviting me.
Can you turn your camera on?
Uh,
I mean, we would like to see you if you can.
I don't know. I'm having some difficulty with that.
All right, then go ahead, brother. Go ahead. No problem.
So, no countries in human history have had to suffer the injustices of imperialism as Cuba and Haiti have suffered. For the last 65 years, Cuba has been subjected to the most brutal economic blockade imposed on it by the United States. But despite enduring the hardships of this blockade, Cuba has not only survived, but have proven the naysayers wrong. All those who predicted that with the fall of the Soviet Union and the Eastern European Socialist Bloc that Cuba would disintegrate now have to swallow their vomit because Cuba has the wherewithal and resilience to survive. Those who predicted that with the passing of the indomitable and iconic leader, Fidel Castro, that the Cuban Revolution would come to an end, have seen the continuation and persistence of a process that is people-driven and supported. Cuba has shown to the world that despite all of their difficulties, they have not only survived, but have continued to provide invaluable assistance to countries less fortunate. Cuba trains and provides more doctors than the entire World Health Organization. They send hundreds of doctors to countries of Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean to improve the healthcare systems of these countries, as well as providing scholarships for training young professionals in medicine, dentistry, economics, agriculture, and other disciplines. The hardships of the Cuban people have been exacerbated even more under the Trump and Biden's administration, who have imposed additional sanctions, including putting Cuba on a list of state sponsors of terrorism, which they know very well is false. This makes it difficult for Cuba to access funding or to do normal business transactions. We call for the removal of the criminal economic blockade. We say enough is enough. Today's Cuba's medical assistance to other countries is now being touted and considered as human trafficking and forced labor. Nothing is further from the truth. How can you consider a country that's providing humanitarian and medical assistance to dozens of countries to save lives around the world as human trafficking and forced labor, when the very history of the country that attacks them is a country that has the most egregious example of trafficking and forced labor through 3 centuries of transatlantic slave trade and forced labor? Blacks built the United States without receiving a single cent of compensation and have endured beatings, brutality, lynchings in a way that no other race has ever suffered. The Haitian situation is today untenable. While it is easy to pass the buck and create the illusion that the Haitian people are the ones responsible for the incredibly dire state of affairs, the reality is that the real truth is that the Haitian people and their story and their truth needs to be told, and the causes for their plight exposed. Haiti is one of the richest countries in the Caribbean, with billions of dollars in mineral wealth, including iridium, one of the rarest and most precious and expensive metals on earth. Haiti has the second largest deposits of mineral wealth, in addition to an abundance of gold and oil. But you never hear anything about it. Is it then by accident that Haiti is considered impoverished, and there are those who want us to continue believing that narrative, when in fact Haiti is a rich country, but riches are not used in the interest of the people? Why does the US have the second largest embassy in this so-called impoverished country? Have you ever asked yourselves why? Is it by accident that the most impoverished country in the Western Hemisphere is predominantly black? Haiti is still paying for the crime, quote unquote, of being the first black revolution in the Western Hemisphere. The origin and the plight of the Haitian people has its roots in racism and slavery, and is a constant reminder of what people of African origin have had to go through over the ages and still continue to go through, even in this century. That is, even in this century that is far removed from slavery as we knew it. It is time for us as a people of African origin, where we may be within the United States, the Caribbean, and otherwise, to demand a new dispensation for the people of Haiti. We are or are supposed to be all God's children. Haiti and its people have more than their fair share of misery, oppression, and natural disasters. But there's little one can do to prevent natural disasters and the magnitude of earthquakes that destroyed Port-au-Prince several years ago. There's much we can do by way of advocacy, human effort, and resources to transform Haiti once again into a progressive nation that we can all be proud of. We also call for the end of the criminal economic blockade against Cuba, the removal of Cuba from the state list of sponsors of terrorism, and the return of Guantanamo Bay to the rightful owners, which are the Cuban people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, brother. We appreciate the solidarity statement with Haiti and Cuba from Grenada. Next, we have right now, it's 50 minutes after 7 Belize time. I'll introduce our last, no, we have 2 people left. From Curacao and from Namibia with solidarity message. They each have 5 minutes each. Brother Ringo Harrigan from Curacao is having technical difficulties, so facilitator will put up your camera, but we're glad to see your face, brother Dak. We're glad to see your face. And so we put up Brother Ringo's image, and then we'll try one thing. I'll have him on speakerphone on my phone. After I introduce him, I'll put my phone next to my laptop, and it should work. African Ancestors and Ancestors Guidance. So Brother Ringo Harrigan is an activist from Curacao. He's founder and director of Save Our Youth Curacao Foundation. The organization stands for rights and development of people with disability and children in poverty. Brother Ringo, it's 16 minutes after 7. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead and let's see if this will work. You may speak now.
Okay, greetings to the organizers for this solidarity program. I want to thank you all for your efforts and support. Greetings to our moderators, Mrs. Yaya Coleman and Brother Akabotota, and greetings to all our honorable presenters, and greetings to all of Solidarity Messengers. I want to start with my solidarity message and support in Cuba by sending a respectful salute to Honorable President of Cuba, Mr. Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez, for the great work he's doing. And a respectful appreciation of President and Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Fidel Castro, for his tremendous work that he did with Cuba and the nation of Cuba that Cuba gave to the world. That's something that no other countries has done in the world. For example, the great work and support in Africa and other countries, and one recently great support to different countries in the world during the pandemic of COVID. Cuba, the only one in the world that did extend its hand to help others, help other countries with no interest in nothing, to get nothing back from them. Cuba has shown its love and solidarity to the world. Brothers and sisters, now I'm calling on all countries, especially the countries that Cuba has extended its hand to help them, and show them the love and solidarity to them. I'm calling you for your love and support and solidarity so we all can give our love and support and solidarity to Cuba by sending a massive of materials, funds, and workers to help build power plant and new electricity line and water system, clean water system, and boosting the economy and tourism of Cuba. Yeah. Don't worry about no sanction. We all can put section 2. Do not underestimate our union. I appreciate all of who has participated in this solidarity program. I'll be shortly. I thank you guys for your support, and I look forward for your love, support, and solidarity for Cuba, that we can work together and help Cuba develop back and stand on the feet, and that we can form a union for the future and keep working together with each other. Thank you all.
Thank you, Brother Ringo Harrigan. And as you could say, I really did work this today. There are lots of, I'm learning on this Zoom. I'm learning. I have skills that I didn't know I had, and I'm creating ways to make it work. And so Brother Ringo Harrigan reminded us as a people that no matter what, how challenging it may be for some of us, think about what our sisters and brothers in Cuba and Haiti live every single day. The things that we may think are challenges, not that they're not, but we can find a solution. We can win. As long as we're alive and we're in communication, we can find solutions to any challenge. It matters that we're in unity, and the power is greater with the people than the people in power. Now, our next guest, thanks to all the presenters so far and those giving solidarity message. Our last person giving a solidarity message, our brother Namibia from the US, Brother Doctovia Ashiki.
Asheke, it's all good.
Asheke, brother, forgive me. I'm trying and I'm trying. You got 5 minutes. It's 7:21. Go strong.
All right, so let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to take this a number of different ways. I'm going to speak from two different, but of course, interconnected perspectives. One being on my Afro-American, my Black American side, on my mother's side, and my father's side, also from Namibia, from the continent, right? And so with that, on the first thing we want to do on this last day of Black August, we want to shout out Black August, a celebration and commemoration to study, train, fast, and fight from political prisoners in U.S. prisons, beginning in California in the 1970s and then extending outwards. And so this month is a month to have solidarity with political prisoners, Black political prisoners, wherever they may be. So I want to begin with that. Secondly, what we also want to begin with is there's a long history of solidarity with the Cuban people and Haitian people that stretch back centuries. It is not just a 21st or 20th century phenomenon. It goes back to the 15 and 1400s. It goes back to an earlier time. And so on the one hand, with the new work that I've been doing here in the U.S. South, in the Deep South, as some call it, I've been working closely and working with peoples who call themselves the Gullah Geechee Seminole peoples, right? And we want to talk about some of the older solidarities that Cuba, given that it had so many African soldiers who were being conscripted to fight for the Spanish, very much was a fear of the South Carolina colonies in the U.S. South in the mid 17th centuries, as Cuban soldiers were seen as Africa on their doorstep and as a threat to the enslaved who were rising in numbers throughout the Carolina colonies and the rice plantations of the Low Countries. So you want to talk about those early solidarities with Cuba. And we also want to talk about, at the same time, in La Florida, during the Haitian Revolution, Biasu would lose, given his decision to choose the Spanish, and he would actually choose to go to St. Augustine. And there, Biasu's son-in-law would marry some of the Maroons coming from the South Carolina Low Country there, called Prince Whitten. And you'd have there a marriage between Haiti and the Gullah Geechee in the Southeast. That was one of the first bulwarks fighting against enslavement and the expansion of U.S. what would eventually be first British and then U.S. empire in the Southeast. And so you want to think about that connection of Haitians who were in La Florida, in St. Augustine, and who had intermixed with the Gullah Geechee peoples there as well. And during that, we also want to talk about the Seminole Wars, what we call the Seminole Wars, what we also call the Negro Wars, given the generals at the time who spoke on this. Cuban peoples did supply some of the blacks who were fighting in the Seminole Wars. And we want to give some of that solidarity to think about those struggles against slavery in the U.S. that do not often get talked about in terms of the solidarity of the Caribbean with that. I also want to go further and talk about how revolution would come to even Cape Town, to Azania in the early 1800s, riding the wave of the Haitian Revolution very much. So in 1808, we'd have slave revolts across South Africa from the indigenous peoples there and the enslaved from Java and different parts of the rapidly expanding world economy, right? And in more contemporary times in the 19th century, even the predecessors to Che Guevara and Fidel and Raul Castro. While Raul Castro and Fidel, they were very much inspired by the Jose Martis of the world. We also don't want to forget Antonio Maceo and the black revolutionaries in Cuba, particularly on the eastern side of the island. And Antonio Maceo himself coming from a pan-Caribbean background and beginning to imagine a Jamaican, Haitian, and a Cuban confederation already in the mid to late 19th century, right? Haiti would be central with that, him coming from Venezuelan and Dominican parents as you were, right? And then as we move into the 20th century, right, we have some of the obvious examples of solidarity beginning with the Haitian, with the, the continuation of the Haitian Revolution. If we take James's words himself in his updated version of the Black Jacobins, talking about Fidel Castro being himself a 20th century version of Toussaint Louverture. So we want to speak about that solidarity as well, speak about Victor Drake and some of the other Cubans, men and women who joined the fight against apartheid and against white settler colonialism in the African continent. We want to talk about those things and that solidarity, which is where the Namibian example comes from, because we served and we fought with the Cubans against apartheid, against colonialism, and against imperialism and capitalism. And so much so that a new generation, right, even today, does see the injustices against Haiti, does see the fight for freedom that is being taken place in Haiti today. And with the diasporas of all these peoples, very, very strong in the world, we want to say a luta continua. We want to say the struggle continues. We also want to think of, before I think my 5 minutes are up, what I did want to say in terms of some contemporary solidarities. I think it's important to think of, for example, some of our Trinidadian comrades who are here. We think of 1970, the revolution then, how Venezuelan soldiers were used with the Americans to be a counteraction against some of the coup attempts that were happening in Trinidad at a particular point in time. So now here we have Trinidad being now used against Venezuela in a particular way. And then 50 years before, we had it the first way around. So remember, divide and conquer is real. Solidarity must be the answer in every single situation. A luta continua.
Big respect, brother. Sincere apologies. I am so busy doing so many things. Brother Akamotota did not properly introduce you, so I'll give him the opportunity to do that now. And then if you want to summarize what you said, because you were really on point when it comes to solidarity. And a lot of times we don't remember the people who made the sacrifices, or we just don't know. And so we appreciate moments like this. So big respect again to Haiti Action Committee and Caribbean Dialogue for organizing this moment for us to come together and learn from each other and listen and take back what we are hearing today and think about it and share it with others and find creative ways so that we are responsible for the knowledge that we're hearing. And we owe it to our African ancestors and our sisters and brothers who are living today, especially in Haiti, because if it wasn't for them, we would definitely not be free. Brother Akamotota.
So I wanted to make a comment relative to Dr. Marichal. And I'm very thankful that he came. Two things. His grandfather, I think it was, T.A. Marichal, anti-colonial fighter from Grenada, was the man who gave us one of the most memorable phrases relative to attacking British colonialism. He said the West Indies must be West Indian. In other words, we are not British. The West Indies must be West Indian. That was a quote from T.A. Marichal, who was a fighter for our people in the 1930s and 1940s. And incidentally, this brother went to Cuba to study. And while he was there, the revolution collapsed. And here I traveled on the same flight returning to Cuba. And here we are so many years later talking about solidarity. So I'm very happy that he could have been here. Relative to Toivo's father was a senior member of SWAPO. And I happened to be in the US doing some solidarity work for the National Joint Action Committee in the 1980s. Yeah, in 1980s. And I found comradeship with the young revolutionaries in SWAPO who were representing SWAPO in the US. And among them was Hinyangira Shike. And so I asked my friend, brother at Georgia State, for a speaker. And when I saw the name, I could not believe that I was in struggle with his father, nor I'm in struggle with his son. So it's a full circle. And he is currently an assistant professor at Georgia State University, and he has written the book, Arming Black Consciousness, the Azanian Black Nationalist Struggle and South Africa's Armed Struggle. So I wanted to say that about him to explain who he is. He is the son of a Namibian father and an African American.
Big respect, Brother Akka, for acknowledging those two brothers and the generational legacy. We owe it. I mean, big respect for the longevity of people. It's not an easy task to commit your life or most of your life to the liberation of our people. But if others didn't do it for us, then we couldn't be here to do it. So respect to people power. No! All our guests are important. Let me say that again. All our guests are important and they matter. But we know a whole bunch of people show up today because they were here, this next guest. Brother Akka will definitely introduce this guest. Brother Akka, our featured guest is Vijay Parshad, and he will be interpreting Haiti and Cuba as imperialist crisis / context of imperialism. He has 20 minutes. Brother Akka, go ahead and introduce Vijay, please.
So, Comrade Parshad, I'm always happy when he's on any panel that I'm part of, because he's so insightful, always give you something to think about. And so Vijay Parshad is a political commentator who is currently the executive director of the Tri-Continental Institute for Social Research. He's also the editor of Leftward Books. He's a senior non-resident fellow at Chongyang University, Chongyang Institute at Renmin University, China. Comrade Parshad was born and raised in Kolkata, India, and is an advocate for the global South, and many of his writings reflect that position. He was formerly a professor of international studies at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and he's an outspoken critic of American hegemony and imperialism and its manifestations, neocolonialism and neoliberalism. Without further comment, I now introduce our special guest, Comrade Vijay Parshad, historian.
I don't know how special I am because we started this program with our friend Pierre, who's a legend, the founder of the Haiti Action Committee, held the flag up for Haitian liberation in our time. So I would like to say that it's an honor to be with you, Pierre, here. And I'm extremely jealous of Yaya for fanning herself because she seems to be hot, whereas I'm in Santiago, Chile, where it's freezing cold. It's winter here, so matters must be taken in hand. And I must absorb some of that Caribbean sunshine and heat. Some of it, Aku is showing us from his fantasy life behind him, that beautiful beach scene. Can't wait to jump into the ocean at some point.
Thanks, Vijay.
We are going to...
Right now, it's 7:33 and you have 20 minutes.
Perfect. I want to start by saying we're on the threshold of entering September, and on September 16th will be the second anniversary of the announcement of the Association of Sahel States. Now, I'm starting here because, in a way, the Association of Sahel States, which comprises Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali in the Sahel region of Africa, just below the Sahara. The Association of Sahel States was created as a venture by these three countries to basically hold each other in a military alliance against a possible invasion by mercenary, and I use the word advisedly, mercenary army created by ECOWAS, led most likely by Nigeria, doing the dirty work of the French, the United States, and the British. The United States and the French have military bases in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. The French have been asked to leave. They have subsequently left, gone to Chad, where the government has asked them to leave as well. The United States continues to have a very large military base in Niger. It is the largest drone base in the world, in fact. It's a base that I've seen. You can continue driving and it goes on for a very long time. This base in the center of Niger is used by the United States not to police Al-Qaeda, which is what they say they're up to, but in fact is part of the activity to prevent mostly young African men from countries like Nigeria trying to transit the Sahara to go to Europe, because their own countries have been largely suffocated by the International Monetary Fund. These are actually anti-immigrant military bases set up by France and the United States under the pretext of going after Al-Qaeda. I can tell you, having met some of the Al-Qaeda people in southern Algeria and in Mali, that they are largely cigarette smugglers and also human traffickers. Pretty nasty fellows, but I don't think they really need the full might of the US military to take them down. This is a common feature in the Sahara, smuggling. You don't need big, major military intervention. This is actually an anti-immigrant operation that the United States has been running on behalf of the Europeans, a racist anti-immigrant operation, which was really catapulted because of the illegal US war against Libya. Illegal because the United States and France had a UN Security Council resolution for a no-fly zone. They didn't have a resolution to go and knock the state out, to destroy the Libyan state. Certainly didn't have a resolution to murder Muammar Gaddafi. On the 16th of September, the second anniversary of the creation of the AES, the International People's Assembly has made a call for a day of solidarity. And I very much hope that Caribbean Dialogue, that UBAD, that Haiti Action Committee and others will join the International Day of Solidarity on the 16th of September with the people of the Sahel, because this, my friends, this is the Haitian Revolution of our time. And that bombing run in Libya is basically the grammar of the kind of war that the United States would like to prosecute against Venezuela. In the case of Venezuela, the pretext they've developed is drugs, having fabricated a cartel called the Cartel of the Sun. They accuse Nicolas Maduro Moro, the elected president of Venezuela, of being the head of this fabricated cartel. Even the gentleman who made up the name in a book he wrote 2 decades ago said that, look, this is a phenomena. This is a phenomena, not a real thing. There's no real cartel of the sun. There are real cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco cartel, the Los Zetas, and so on, now called the Cartel of the North, Cartel de los Nortes. These are real cartels. They are Mexican, or they are El Salvadorian, the MS-13, which actually was born in Los Angeles, and because of the deportations during the Trump administration, the MS-13 is now decamped to El Salvador. These are real drug cartels. 80% of drugs goes through the Caribbean, not through the Pacific, sorry, not the Caribbean. this buildup of warships against Venezuela following the grammar of the destruction of Libya. We've seen this before. Today's Cuban revolution, today's Haitian revolution is the Sahel. We must make that connection. They want to destroy African men and women who are standing up and saying we want our sovereignty. Remember that our leader Thomas Sankara in 1983, when he took power in Burkina Faso, said that we don't want our country to be called Upper Volta, a ridiculous name, a colonial name, above the Volta River, not the name of a dignified African people. He changed the name of the country to Burkina Faso, which means land of upright people, people who don't stoop to colonialism. Land of upright people. That's Burkina Faso. Today, the leader there, Ibrahim Traoré, bows down to the memory of Thomas Sankara, assassinated by imperialism in 1987. We must be in solidarity with the Sahel today, which is our Cuban revolution on the African continent, the Sahel today, which is our Haitian revolution on the African continent. If we lose the process in the Sahel, it will be a big setback, not only for Africa, but also for the Caribbean. So defense of the Sahel, essential, my comrades, absolutely essential. We have an imperialism of blusterers and blunderers. That's what we have. Blusterers and blunderers. Blusterers, because they talk a big game. Trump talks a big game, following the example of Biden, people like Macron, people like Keir Starmer. They talk a big game. They are there prosecuting a genocide against the Palestinians, and they still have the temerity to talk about human rights. They should not be permitted to use the word human, let alone the phrase human rights. I don't want to hear the word human coming out of Trump or Macron or Keir Starmer's mouth. Don't want to hear the word human. Forget human rights. Don't want them to say human. Human is our word. It's not their word. They don't have the right to say the word human. It's our word, not their word. The phrase human rights, they have corrupted it. They have corrupted the phrase human rights. They've made it a weapon of imperialism. It's no longer our weapon. We have to fight to win the phrase back. It is a weapon of imperialism. They are going to defend human rights. What human rights will they defend? Where will they defend human rights? The human rights of the 2.3 million Palestinians under a genocide? Whose human rights are being defended there? Certainly not the arms merchants of the West. They are making money hand over fist, while the Palestinians are seeing their dignity being deprived of. Children saying, I don't remember anything. Children becoming deaf because they have a severe trauma from the bombing. What human rights? Not their human rights. Don't want to hear the blusterers and blunderers of imperialism ever using those words again. It means nothing. They have corrupted language using words like that. They have corrupted the word sovereignty. Whose sovereignty? They say, oh, Russia violated the sovereignty of Ukraine. What sovereignty have they not violated? Going back to the sovereignty of Iran in 1953, of Guatemala 1954. And do you want me to take the rest of our time here just listing when they have corrupted the word sovereignty? Dignity, never been a word that they are familiar with. Look how they treated the Congo in the 19th century. Millions of Congolese killed. Holocaust? What about the Holocaust of the Herero and Nama people of Namibia, wiped out by the Germans, 1904 to 1906? They wiped out the Herero and Nama people, perhaps the first recorded Holocaust of the modern period. The Holocaust, 3 million people in my Bengal killed in 1943 by the British. 3 million people. Unrecorded, uncelebrated. That murderer, racist Winston Churchill's statue still sits next to the Houses of Parliament in the United Kingdom next to Westminster Hall. Democracy, Winston Churchill was a racist, imperialist. We don't respect him at all. We spit on him, in fact. Democracy, dignity, sovereignty, these are our words, not their words. I don't want them to start wars using our words. They have corrupted these words. They should not be allowed to even speak them. A few years ago, Noam Chomsky and I did this book called On Cuba. I'm referring to this book because there's a section in here where we make a comparison with Haiti. It's often forgotten. The Cuban Revolution takes place in 1959. The government of Fidel Castro and Dorticos and others starts immediately improving the conditions of people's lives, and the United States and its allies try to destroy the Cuban Revolution. Blockade starts in 1962. That's 1959. Keep that number in mind. The Cuban Revolution starts in 1959. It is often forgotten, and it is very rarely remarked upon, that 2 years before the Cuban Revolution, Haiti had one of its worst counter-revolutions. And that was the counter-revolution that brings to power Papa Doc Duvalier. And Pierre, I am sorry to refer to that gentleman in this webinar. You don't want to hear his name mentioned. You don't want to hear his name because the name is traumatic for Haitian people. Not just the father, but the son as well. The father comes to power 2 years before the Cuban Revolution. United States is the plane upon whose wings Mr. Duvalier sits, brought to power by the United States. They didn't talk about democracy when Mr. Duvalier comes in and takes power undemocratically. They don't talk about human rights violations, the destruction of Haitian civil society, whatever of it existed at that point. Nobody complained. Where were the reports about what was happening in Haiti in 58, 59, 60, 61? There was no blockade of Haiti. Cuba was developing the dignity of the Cuban people, blockaded. Haiti was under a police state, a military regime, brutal, undemocratic regime. Nobody complained. There was no blockade. If you take the example of those two, you see, we always compare the Cuban Revolution, as CLR James did in the reissuing of the Black Jacobins. When he reissued the Black Jacobins in 1963, the afterword is called From Toussaint to Fidel Castro, where CLR James compares the Haitian Revolution of 1804 to the Cuban Revolution of 1959 and says these are Caribbean revolutions. But in fact, in this book, Noam and I decided, no, that's not the apposite comparison. James got it wrong. The apposite comparison is the 1957 counter-revolution, which was backed by the United States, a revolution of property against people. That's the revolution to compare with Cuba 1959, a revolution of people against property. These are, in fact, the mirror images of each other. One, a revolution of property over people bathed in blood, led by Papa Doc and then Baby Doc, all the way until it was no longer possible to sustain that revolution because of the flood, because of Lavalas, because Aristide leads a flood into the presidential palace. Because of that, it was no longer possible to sustain the Duvaliers, not because the United States suddenly decided, oh, these men are no longer to be backed. They would have backed them till now. They had no problem with that. Look at the Central African Republic. When they have no problem with a dictatorship, it can last forever. It could have lasted forever. It was overthrown by the people. But they immediately had a problem with the Cuban Revolution, which was a revolution of people against property. Imperialism likes property. Imperialism hates people. The same in the Sahel. The Sahel is a revolution led by military officers, I concede, but so was Sankara, a military officer, and he also did a coup d'etat. And we celebrate Sankara People are saying, well, Ibrahim Traore, military officer, so was Thomas Sankara. So was Hugo Chavez. He led a coup attempt in 1992. The attempt failed, but he led a coup attempt, went to prison. I tried to interview him in prison, found it difficult. Went there in 1995, couldn't get in to see him. Saw him later when he was president. These were men of the military, but they also came from lower middle class backgrounds, understanding the plight of the people. The Sahel is a revolution of people against property. Imperialism hates that. They hate Cuba till now. During the pandemic, I interviewed a range of Cuban doctors. One of them moved me deeply was Dr. Jani Cabrera Paumier. She was, as it happened, in Belize during the pandemic. And one of the things I found most moving about the conversation with Jani is she told me that it was when we were talking, she said her 4-year-old daughter was in Santiago de Cuba, in Cuba, while she was there in Belize in a hot ward, in a COVID ward during the pandemic. And I asked her, your daughter is going to turn 4 in a few days. How do you feel? She said, I miss my daughter. I'm heartsick that I can't be with my daughter, but nothing makes me prouder to be a Cuban than to be here in Belize taking care of people. Nothing makes me prouder to be a Cuban than this. Marco Rubio is not a credible person. When he says this modern day slavery and so on, what does Mr. Rubio, a product of Miami, the most corrupt section of Miami where all Latin American dictators go to take a sauna. What does Marco Rubio know of the world? Little Marco, as Trump used to call him, doesn't know a thing about Cuban doctors and the sacrifices they have made to make the world a better place. What does Marco Rubio know about drugs and the drug trade, saying that Venezuela, the government is involved? Doesn't know a thing. Repeats talking points, takes dictation from his donors, big plutocrats sitting in Miami wanting their property back in Cuba, wanting their property back in Venezuela, wanting their property to be sustained in Haiti. Where did those guns come from that killed Ariel Henry? Those were Colombian mercenaries, but where did their guns come from? Where are barbecue's guns coming from? They come from Miami. We knew that. The Miami Herald wrote the story. Who are the plutocrats sitting in Miami who want to defend their property rights in Haiti? Property over people. That's what they know. That's what Rubio knows. That's what imperialism defends. We must stand for people against property. We must draw a line to defend the Cuban Revolution. Goes without saying. Goes without saying. We must defend the Cuban Revolution. It is an existential issue for people against property. We must defend the Haitian people against military intervention by the United States or any of its allies, even under the fig leaf of a UN resolution, which is exactly what they used to destroy Libya. Cannot allow that. We want to defend the people, but not through a military intervention, because US military interventions always defend property over people. And yes, friends, we must defend the alliance of Sahel states, the AES. September 16th is a monumental day. I hope everybody does their part one way or the other. Say something, do something. At Tri-Continental, we published a dossier called the Sahel Seeks Sovereignty. It's our August 2025 dossier. It tells the story of the alliance of Sahel states. You can easily find it at our website, thetricontinental.org. The text is called The Sahel Seeks Sovereignty. I want to repeat what I said a minute ago. The struggle in the Sahel today is our struggle. The struggle to liberate Africa today is our struggle. Africa is one of the most important battlefields, and I use the word battlefield advisedly, for imperialism. It is trying to militarize an economic contest that it feels it is taking place against China. China has come to the African continent to industrialize the countries. That is what it's offering. Militarism and imperialism cannot stand the idea. They want Africa to remain a source of raw materials. They want to militarize Africa further, cannot permit it. The battle over the Sahel states is where it starts and ends. Defend the alliance for Sahel states, defend the Cuban Revolution, defend the Haitian people against military intervention, and build Caribbean dialogue to become the most important pan-Caribbean institution for intellectual and political debate, because, comrades and friends, we need to rebuild the Caribbean left. Not only do we need to rebuild the West Indian cricket team, we need to rebuild the Caribbean left. Let it be said, and let me be the first to say it on this platform, that the West Indian cricket team is only as good as the Caribbean left is. When the Caribbean left was strong in the 1970s, Clive Lloyd could lead his boys out there, head held high, with Richards wearing a red, yellow, and green wristband, because the Caribbean left was behind them to go out there and smash up the English. If we don't have a strong Caribbean left, we're always going to see the West Indies in a miserable situation. But take it from me, Ako, take it from me, a cricket writer saying this on the platform of Caribbean Dialogue. You want to see a good West Indian cricket team? Terry, rebuild the Caribbean left from Grenada outward.
Big thanks. Big thanks. Big thanks.
Well,
That's definitely. Go ahead, Brother Akko.
I didn't know you were going to use a cricket analogy. I thought you had lived in the US so long you forgot about cricket.
I write a monthly cricket column, which, by the way, is more popular than anything and everything I write put together.
Oh my. So, and he's absolutely correct. I have always said that the greatest institution we created in the Caribbean was the West Indian cricket team. And because of our ineptitude, it has collapsed, and it is today the laughing stock. And if one wants to understand how important cricket was to the Caribbean, then read CLLJ's Beyond the Boundary. So cricket was not just a sport, it was the place we competed and defeated our colonizers. And so, I was in Jamaica last week, and one of the things I said, I went to speak at the annual Marcus Garvey thing. It was 34 years. And the perspective I took was the living legacy of Garvey rather than the historical Garvey. Because too many people talk about the historical Garvey as a relic of history and the UNIA and all that stuff. And I was saying, what would Garvey, that was the thing of it, what the Christians say, WWJD, what would Jesus do? I asked the question, what would Garvey do? And I mentioned the fact that the manifestation of the living Garvey was the fact that Viv Richards wore the red, gold, and green on his arm or his hand while he was playing cricket. And the songs that so many singers, Peter Tosh and Bob Marley, all of these things were the living legacy of Marcus Garvey. And so the West Indian cricket team was, in fact, could you imagine a group of islands with just about 10, 12 million people will beat the British who invented cricket and ruled the world for 15 years? And it brings us to what Lloyd Best said. People were speaking about how small we were, and Lloyd Best said small size doesn't matter. Utilize your comparative advantages. This is what Jamaica has proven. An island with 2 million people and dominates athletics in the world. And so this is the spirit and the legacy that we have to incorporate. So I'm thankful to Comrade Parshad for instilling that cricket metaphor in the middle of our discussion. Thank you. Sister Yaya,
big thanks. Big thanks. This is absolutely what we need. A reminder, everyday people, about our past and what connected us and how much we have a duty to be in solidarity, because only the people and save the people. Big thanks for that reminder. And I never even know that Dr. Mandela Belize. So give thanks for that Belize link. And we'll open up. It's now about 8 o'clock. We'll do 15 minutes for question and answer. Okay, we are ready. This is what I like. Yes, active people. Question for Vijay and anyone else on the panel. Many of our friends on the left curiously claim Maduro and the current Venezuelan leadership are not worthy of our support. But what is your response, particularly in the light of the AES, Cuban, and Haitian internationalist solidarity that has been outlined tonight? And that question was posed by Activist News Network. So who would like to answer that question? Come on. Pick up the mic. Do I need to read it again? It's such a challenging question.
No, but I do think that could say something on the what's going on in Venezuela, only because I'm from Trinidad and we're literally right across the waterways. So I would like your take on what's going on and how that's going to play out. How do we see that playing out?
Crickets, come on, presenters.
All right. Okay, fine. Just two very quick things. One is the question itself was about, the left that says one should not support these processes. And it's interesting. I mean, there's no pope of the left. You can't excommunicate people from the left. Okay. So I'm not trying to say that, but there is a kind of, an imperialist left, a State Department left, a U.S. Treasury Department left, a sort of White House left, that is also a white left, if I can be so crude, a left that really doesn't understand the poorer parts of the world, a left that is too comfortable in its own failures to build mass movements. If you've never built a revolutionary movement and never had to deal with the problems of imperialism, the problems of getting past poverty, it's very easy to complain and criticize everybody and anybody. This is a left that I'm sorry to again get sectarian, but comes deeply out of the kind of purist Trotskyite tradition, which seeks to basically say that anything that's not perfect is terrible. And this sort of Trotskyite tradition, again, there may be people from that tradition here. I mean, many of them are nice people. But there is a tradition that seeks to impugn any attempt to build revolutionary processes in poor countries, which are very difficult and don't follow some sort of map laid out, for Europe, which never had a revolution. Your revolutionary tradition failed in Germany in 1918. After the failed German Revolution, where was the revolution in the United States or in Canada? The people who make these criticisms are often based in very comfortable places where they've never made a revolution. They don't know how difficult it is to do that. That's the first point. Secondly, the issue of the buildup on Venezuela. We've seen this before. They first tried a coup against Chavez in 2002. That was 23 years ago. And they've done many military buildups. They tried a drone attack on Maduro and so on. I was in Venezuela during that time. This is a punctual, threat against Venezuela. Maybe they'll attack this time. Who knows? Because imperialism is decadent. It doesn't follow any timetable. It does whatever it wants. It's dangerous. They have military power that nobody else has, but they would be foolish to try an attack on Venezuela now. Foolish. Imperialism is weak. It is not as strong as it was. It has big military power, but right now, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in Tianjin, major US ally, the right-wing government from India, Narendra Modi, is there hugging Xi Jinping, meeting Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, forgotten his name, sorry, meeting the Russians and so on. Lots of complexities taking place in Asia. I would not, if I was to advise Marco Rubio, I would not advise him to walk into the war meeting and say, let's greenlight an attack on Venezuela now. United States, very weak, very vulnerable. This is not, I think, the time for it to try an adventure in the Caribbean.
Isaac Saney, if I may actually add something to what Vijay was saying. And I always like to talk about the fact that the so-called left always likes to say, we support your right to self-determination as long as you self-determine in the way we wish you to self-determine. And in fact, that has been, I've had this conversation before. This is my 7-year-old behind me, right, who is pretty impatient. But one of the things about it, it tends to be this whole diminishing, as Vijay has pointed out, about the ability of us from the global south, the so-called non-European people, to be able to think for ourselves, right? And this is a fundamental thing. But, regardless of where you stand on the nature of a particular government, of defending a country from imperialist attack, defending their fundamental right to determine their own political, economic, and social system should be a given for all of these political forces, right? And I think this is why this idea of sort of like the left sloganeering front of imperialism, i.e., as you've Vijay called the White House left, is so important for us to be aware of, right? And, I'm tired of having carried on these various battles against these individuals, right? Who basically deny that anything of value in terms of revolutionary theory, revolutionary thinking can come from the global south, and they complain about dogmatism, but they're the most dogmatic of thinkers I can imagine. And I'll just make that as my small.
Were you saying something, or your mic is muted?
I just went offline just now and it came back on. I don't know if anyone else experienced that.
No, I was just enjoying the young 7-year-old revolutionary.
Did you finish your thought, Brother Isaac?
Yeah, no, I've finished my talk, but my 7-year-old, I'm actually on strike at my university, so she's been on the picket line, right? And been at some Palestinian demonstrations as well against the genocide. So she is in a school of struggle.
Thanks, brother. I just wanted to say we had a guest today, Brother Brian Koba. He has a book on ancestor Hubert Harrison. And in the early 1900s, he was saying the same thing about the left, right, Brother Akko?
Yes, he was. Well, that issue is the same reason CLRJs broke with the American Communist Party, right? Because they couldn't understand the issue of race. And so CLR broke with the American Communist Party. So we've always had these conflicts of the left. In Trinidad, we had the same thing after what's called the Black Power Revolution. All the groups, the movement splintered. And we had so many, we had men who consider themselves holding the Albanian line. So you had the Albanian line and the different lines. And, at the end of it, we came to a conclusion. I think it's Lenin who wrote a paper. It's called Left-Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder. So to some extent, to me, that is what this is. It's infantility, because there's a practical way and there are certain realities that you have to face, And so this to a lesser extent, I think Brother Saney said a very interesting thing, used a very interesting term on our interview last week. He said we are debating 20th century issues and we're the 21st century,
And if I can add something else to this, Richard, I think a lot of these people, I've been reading a lot. There's a lot of this stuff online about Venezuela, about Cuba, about all of these different things, and people who are purer than pure, right? Purer than the driven snow. And one of the interesting things I think is they're dealing with just as we're in a tumultuous time where we may be seeing a fundamental shift in geopolitical and global economic power, right? We're also seeing a shift, probably also epistemologically. And there are many in the West who I think are going through a psychic cognitive cognitive dissonance, right? Where they have seen themselves sitting on the top as sort of like the gurus of revolutionary thought, right? And perhaps they can no longer bear the fact that they are being pushed into the margins, right? And instead of joining with, these struggles and trying to participate in them, okay, they now become sort of like priests, trying to excommunicate people for the slightest, what they consider heresies, while they are the heretics themselves, if not the blasphemers.
Indeed. And I just wanted to say I couldn't agree more with the statement from Vijay and your statement, Saney, and also Ako. This is the role that this left has played, was a major part of the coup against President Aristide in 2004, because you had a subservient left in Haiti, and I call them left-talking right-wingers. Basically, they talk left, but they are right-wingers, you see? And so they were carrying out, they were pretty much on a mission by those so-called left in the US, the White House left. I love this. And they were projecting, and you also had some phony women's organizations. I say phony in the sense that they talk progressive, but they were not. There were also students groups. In other words, the imperialism financed and put into the battlefield all of those forces that really, I couldn't believe how many people who were friends of mine, who I was on the picket line with, were falling for this hook, line, and sinker. And I'm thinking, what the hell's wrong with you guys? So I pretty much say, I'm saying just this to say I fully agree. And I want to give a big shout out to Seth Donnelly in his article. Seth has described this very well. What's the title of that article, Seth, when you called out some of those left folks in Haiti, and also were doing the bidding of basically of the imperialists, and that created so much confusion among people who naturally should have stood with Haiti, especially the year of our bicentennial. But people were like in a fog and were paralyzed into inaction, while this ultra-right-wing machine led by the US, France, and Canada were mowing down Haitian people. So today we have the result of this. And that's why I say we need to support Cuba. We need to support Venezuela. If not, what's happening today in Haiti to the Haitian people will be what the fate of the people of Cuba and Venezuela. But thank goodness, people will stand strong and will not allow this to happen.
I'll look for that article while we're talking. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, get up thinking about what you need for Tuesday morning.
Nancy Wright, thank you.
Mute your microphone, please. Jane Wright, Jancy Wright, I think it is.
It's been muted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you sharing something?
Oh, I know. I was done. I was just saying, I think the article that Pierre mentioned was, I think it's the limits of token solidarity or
Indeed.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think Vijay really nailed it. Like, it's a class thing too. It's a class and race privilege thing. I see it all the time in the white left in the United States.
Seth, can you put in the link to that article, the limits of token solidarity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me read some of the comments that we have. We have maybe another 5 minutes of question and answer. It says, Donna Wallace, the illegal occupation of all of historic Palestine is very similar to the occupation of Haiti and the stealing of land and resources and demonizing the resistance fighters. Along with the Sahel, there is a need to connect the struggles for liberation and freedom in Palestine, Haiti, Cuba, etc. Activist News Network, shout out to budding revolutionary in the background. Activist News Network, question, thoughts on call for a zone of peace in the region? Donna said it must be a zone of peace. Anyone who wants to respond to thoughts on call for a zone of peace in the region? That'll be the last question for the night.
Before you move on, Terry Marisha wanted to say something.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to say that one of the biggest blows to the left really took place with the collapse of the Grenada Revolution.
Yeah.
And the assassination of Morris Bishop, the likes of which we have never been able to recover from up to this day. For a country that really was considered as Marxist country, quote unquote Marxist, quote unquote leftist country, it is just mind-boggling that today you can hardly find a real cohesive group of people in Grenada, where I'm from, that really represents a left that was so progressive in that period in the 80s. And you wonder when is the left going to raise its head in a very credible way again, because we see all these struggles taking place, the situation in Gaza, the situation in Palestine, the situation in Venezuela at this time. And I feel a little bit ashamed even for our own country that we cannot have a real resounding kind of answer to all of these problems that are taking place regionally and internationally for a country that, that was a leftist country, that everybody now has gone either right into any of those right-wing parties in the country. And you hardly hear anything from them except, a token comment here and there, but as an organized left, that doesn't exist anywhere in the Caribbean. You might hear some progressive words from Ralph Gonzalez and people like that. But what we really need in the Caribbean right now is a resurgence of the left. We need to come back as a united front, because all of this is passing us by, and we don't have a voice anymore. And this is what I would like to see again, that something happens, whether it is a conference that we have or whatever it is, of the left in the region, and try to build on what is left and see if we can, just like the brother was talking about the resurgence of the West Indies cricket team. We need a resurgence of the Caribbean left right now.
I agree with you, and quite a few of us have been discussing that issue, and we have plans to have some preliminary meetings to see how we can develop a pan-Caribbean left.
Thank you. I'm going to squeeze in one last question, and this will be the absolute last one. So do our panelists see it fit for Maduro to claim that 2/3 of Guyana belongs to Guyana and holding a referendum along with his opposition to determine how many Venezuelans agree? Anyone wants to answer that question?
Yeah, this is an interesting debate and dispute. Firstly, I would just like to say, if anybody wants to, restart the particularly English-speaking Caribbean left, please, I would love to be part of that conversation. We started this conversation with our friends in Trinidad, the Oil Workers Union, and I'd love to be part of that conversation. I think Terence is right. It's got to be rooted in the Grenada story. I think that's without a question. This is not an unrelated comment to the Guyana Venezuela issue. This issue has been used to divide the left. Frankly, this is not a dispute between the people of Guyana and the people of Venezuela. This is a dispute against ExxonMobil. Guyana is not going to benefit if ExxonMobil, if it's being used as an instrument by ExxonMobil to start drilling in Essequibo. ExxonMobil is going to benefit entirely. Go and talk to the people of Nigeria. How much did they benefit by selling their soul to Shell? Where is Ken Saro-Wiwa today? Where is Ken Saro-Wiwa? Just asked questions and they killed him. Guyana is not going to benefit. This is an issue where Venezuela and Guyana need to come together against ExxonMobil. Remember, ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson was Trump's first Secretary of State, and they really pushed hard for ExxonMobil to effectively underwrite Guyana's legal case against Venezuela in international tribunals. Exxon was paying the bill. Guyana and Venezuela must come together in solidarity against ExxonMobil. I think we cannot frame this as a Venezuela or Guyana who owns Essequibo. I mean, that's a separate issue. The primary issue here is imperialism dividing us and trying to basically take everything for itself. That's the principal issue, and we mustn't fall for it again and again and again and again. Infinity.
Thank you for that clarity. And I think it's so important at times how we frame questions. With our best of intentions, the more we learn, the more we realize we do not know. And so moments like these are very important. So that's the end of our question and answer segment. Thanks everyone who participated, listened, and will share this information. Thanks for those who are sharing links so that people could go back and read news articles or read books that are recommended. Brother Akko, vote of thanks, and let's wrap this up for the night.
Oh, you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I go, I will have to say a few words.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on Professor Parshad, what he said regarding human rights, sovereignty, dignity, and democracy. When I spoke about Shalmai Peralt, he was sleeping in the middle of the night when the Marines came, captured him, and executed him. You know what they did? After he was killed, they took his body, they tied the body on a door, and exposed the body for a few days. So other Haitians who were fighting against the occupation could see what they did to Shalmai Peralt to get them scared so they would stop fighting against the occupation. So when the Marines did that, did they think about human rights, sovereignty of Haiti, dignity of the Haitian people, and Shalmai Peralt? Democracy? No. And those same people still doing the same thing, but they have the nerve to tell us how to behave, what democracy is when it fits their purpose. But when it doesn't, it's something else. The same way that they expel Russia from the soccer, from the Olympics, but why they don't expel Israel? Israel is doing 100 times worse than what Russia is doing in that country there, in Ukraine. So this is what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Brother Akko?
Yeah, I don't know if Pierre, I think, should say something, some closing remarks.
Counting down. We have 9 minutes total, so whoever got to say something, let's say it.
Yes, Pierre. You are muted.
No, I want to say thank you again for organizing this webinar. Thank you to all the panelists and to the audience. Solidarity is the word. Solidarity is the action that we need to continue taking. And the people of Haiti need your support and solidarity. To the people of Cuba, to the people of Palestine, Trinidad, everywhere. We all need the people of India. We all need solidarity. And my brother from Curaçao, who spoke earlier, very eloquently about Cuba. So today, the number of people, there are some videos I couldn't share with you, but the number of people have gone back to see their homes that were destroyed, burned out. This woman was wailing when she saw. She had 4 homes, 4 houses. One belonged to her dad, one belonged to her mom, and one was hers and her brother. Her brother was killed by those terrorists, by those paramilitary death squads last year. 3 bullets for no reason. She had a store, all of that destroyed. And this woman was saying, now I'm on the street, unless somebody gives me a piece of plantain, I don't eat. So this is, we have over a million internally displaced people in Haiti. And this is the work of these death squad paramilitaries who are the Tonton Macoutes, today's Tonton Macoutes, in the pay of the oligarchy that is controlling Haiti with their bosses, the imperialists, who are funneling so many guns to these people. So this is what's happening. And it must be, and I love, again, I want to emphasize that there were some names mentioned. You have somebody like Kim Ives from Haiti Liberté. You have someone like Dan Cohen from journalist, claims to be. Someone like
Wyclef.
Yeah, Wyclef Jean. But, you know, another one, Chris Hedges, who's been promoting these people, these paramilitary death squads, calling them revolutionaries, when they are out there giving orders to massacre people. As my sister said, barbecue didn't just get the name. It's because he burns people alive. That's what they do. And so this is what's going on in Haiti. So people have to be clear. And when those White House leftists come at you, trying to divide and confuse, we need to take a strong stand and let them know, no, we are not buying this. And this is who you are. You are an accomplice to these atrocities as well. So I'll stop right there.
Big thanks, Brother Pierre. Big thanks, Brother Akko. Someone asked if you had anything else you wanted to say about the Flag and Independence Day of Trinidad and Tobago today. And you also have the vote of thanks, and it's exactly 8:25. You got 5 minutes.
I would prefer not to say anything about Trinidad at this point. I said it earlier. All I would say is that we moved from a neocolonial state to now a client state based on what we've been hearing. And it is not unexpected. You know, as I said, we have what is called a kakistocracy, leadership by the least capable and qualified people. And that is how that is going to end. But I want to thank the presenters all. I also want to just take off on what Brother Pierre said about the visions. And that's why I began by speaking about factionalism. Because you have people who are deliberately trying to undermine any solidarity work that is being done. It's as if they believe that only certain voices must be heard. This is why we decided during the course of this year that every month we were going to do something in solidarity with Haiti. So we need to continue this work into the new year and ensure that the issues of Haiti is front and center, because marginalization is part of the effort to make people forget. You know, so thanks to Brother and Comrade Vijay. I'm glad to see him again after a couple of years. Thanks to Brother Terry Marichaud. Right, I was very happy to see him, because the first time I've spoken to anybody in Grenada since the collapse of the Grenada Revolution in any significant way, and this is what over 40 years now, right? Thanks to Sister Maud for always being there, and to Seth, and to Brother Toivo Ashiki, and to Brother Ringo Harrigan, who's struggling in Curacao under the imposition of Dutch colonization. We still have colonies in the Caribbean, Dutch colonies, some French colonies, and so on. And so we like to have them be present at these things so that people understand that this is a reality in the Caribbean. Again, thanks to Sister Kathy and Kisun, who ran the Zoom for us. Also, Brother Isaac Saney for being present, Sister Yaya Maureen Coleman, and I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. We thank you all for being here this evening, and we look forward to continuing the work of building solidarity, and not just in this kind of setting, but we need to build societies on solidarity and sovereignty. I've said to people, I don't know any civilization that was built on competition. All civilizations have been successful, have been built on cooperation. While there must be a place for some competition at some level, but the fundamental ethic or ethos of any great society must be cooperation. And so the Cuban society, the Cuban government and the Cuban people are building a society based on solidarity and cooperation. And this is what Imperialism and its manifestations, neoliberalism does not want. What they want is this hyper-individualism that they are trying to impose on the world to divide all of us as humans. So on that note, again, thanks to everyone. You have my deepest gratitude, and I look forward to our next session. And I still have that trip for Brother Parshad to come to the Caribbean.
Big thanks. Big thanks, Brother Echo, on behalf of Caribbean Dialogue for organizing this event, and Brother Pierre Labasseer from Haiti Action Committee. You may go to YouTube or Facebook and put in XTV Belize, and you could listen to our conversation today. We want to thank everyone who participated, who will make a commitment to continue to study and learn and relearn, to be patient with each other, and to know that we owe it to our sisters and brothers in struggle, wherever they may be, to do the best that we can to make this world a better place than we found it. Until sometime in the future, when there's a next solidarity webinar. Only the people want to save the people. Oh, Christy Flowers. Christy Flowers was the technical director at XTV. Thank you, Christy. Solidarity forever.
Great facilitation. Thank you, Yaya. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, everyone. All the very best. Thank you.